Hello, in this video we will show you the branch record within the Flosum solution. A branch in Flosum is a little different from a branch in a traditional Git environment, where it is a collection of components typically tied to a user story or user stories that are going to be deployed throughout your different environments. So in Flosum there's really a deployment record where you do all of the pre-deployment activities as far as your source code, things like that, before you deploy this. So if you watch the org video, you know how we get our components into this particular branch. You can see I have a list of components in here. I have some profiles, some triggers, a little bit of everything in here. And we're going to deploy these components eventually all the way through our environment to our production org. Now, as stated, this is a deployment record. So you can see in this case I have deployed this successfully to QA, to stage, etc., all the way through to production. Once it passed my testing in production, I back promoted it to my sandboxes so I can make sure that my environments are kept in sync with the latest changes. So anything that I may have merged into my branch here will be down in my sandbox now going forward. So for example, when I deploy this to QA and I merge some changes, they're now included in here. So I deploy it to stage, those changes are in here, etc. Now, in here you can see each deployment record that is in here. In the org video we showed you the deployment records and how they relate to an org. These are the same records, they're just tied to this specific branch. So again, a list of components that had passed, or this will show you the actual error that caused the failure. So within here, I want to make sure I have everything I need to do this deployment. So the first thing I can do is, if I have any destructive changes I need to do in this deployment, so for example in this case I am removing this layout and these two custom fields. I'm doing this before I deploy. This will be included as part of the deployment. It'll be automated, and when I do the deployments later, you'll see that if we have to roll this deployment back, these will also be rolled back, so these things will be automatically put back into the org, so you don't have to do that post-deployment cleanup anymore manually. We automate it and streamline it, and it's logged for you, so you have a complete record of all of these different changes. Adding a change is very simple. You click on here, we want to go to our repository. I have multiple repositories in here, you may have just one. And then I can look and see what I want to add. So I can select this. We're looking at our phone number custom field. And now you can see that's added in here as a post-deployment step. So I can put as many of these in as I need, and they will be executed pre-deployment, and this will be done post-deployment. I now want to make sure I have all of the components in here I need to do deployment. So if I'm missing anything, I want to do what we call a dependency check. I will click on this View Dependencies button. I will select the org I did my development in, and it will come back and show me what is missing. So in this case you can see I'm missing 3 custom fields and a custom object. Now I can look at these, see the dates, they're old, so I can do some research and see if these already exist in production in their current state. If they are, I do not have to worry about that. I can leave it alone, but if they need to be deployed, I can very easily add these into that deployment and make sure these are deployed with the original components if they're ready, so I'm not going to have any validation fails or deployment fails because of missing components. I also allow you to go in and get any profiles you need. So if profiles are missing, you can click on this button and bring in any profiles you have. So now we have all the components we want to deploy, anything we need to delete ready, and we want to start doing some of the other activities. So one of the things we provide from a testing perspective is the ability to do static code analysis. We provide support for Apex PMD out of the box. It's an open source project that Salesforce contributes many security rules and best practices rules to. You can customize the rule sets to choose whatever rule sets you want to, and if none of those meet your criteria, you can actually make a custom rule set, put in your own custom naming conventions, etc., and use those to scan the code as well. This is an optional module that is included with the tool, but if you do use it, it can either be a information only or you can make this your first quality gate. So if you want to start improving your quality, you can run this in information only mode so you can see that issues were found. But then what you can do is you can still deploy this. But then once you get to a point where you want to start enforcing these, you can set this so this is a quality gate. If any issues are found, it cannot be deployed till they're corrected. So again, it's optional and you choose how it is implemented. Now, when it comes to user story tracking and linking, branch is also referred to as a user story in Flosum. Typically how we use the branching strategy is you tie a branch to one or more user stories in your ALM system. I have Jira and Agile Accelerator linked in this environment. We also support Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, and other packages for your user story management. So I'll show you an example of Jira. So in this case, I have 3 user stories linked to my branch. You configure Jira in Flosum to update bidirectionally what fields you want to have updated, status changes, things like that. So for example, if I were to deploy this to QA, I could have Flosum update the status of these 3 user stories to say deploy to QA. If I change this from medium to high in this example Jira instance, it'll be reflected down here as high. So you configure all the information that's exchanged back and forth. At any time you can click on the link and you can go into your actual Jira system. In this example, see the actual ticket. You can review all the details of the ticket if you need to. And we allow you to very easily add tickets, user stories to this. We have a simple keyword search where you can put in just a text keyword and it will come back and show you what it finds. This searches your ALM system directly, and then you can review the ticket in that system, see if it's something that you need to add. You can select it and then you can link it to this object and it'll be held in here. We also allow you to very easily create a user story from in here. So if for some reason you had to add an additional user story, you can click on the button, fill out the appropriate fields, and once you click save, it'll be created in your, in this case, Jira environment, and then it'll be linked to this particular object. Now all the packages we work with look a little bit differently, but the basic functionality is the same. You link it here, it bidirectionally updates with the source system, and you create and search for them the same way. So all different systems work the same, it's just the display a little different. So again, this is Jira, this is a work item, an Agile Accelerator linked here, and so forth. So very, very powerful, and there will be other videos specifically to these integrations you'll be able to watch. Now that I have my user stories set up, I have all of my components here, the code quality has been done. I want to take this now and have a code review. I want to have my fellow developers review this. We call that a pull request. In Flosum, it is a strict code review and approval. There is no deployment done like a pull request in a Git situation. This just allows the code to be deployed if it's hit the approval threshold defined. So very easily you click on the pull request button. If you want to put a description in, you can change the name, and then you decide who you want to have do your reviews. You add them, you click on the create pull request, and that will send the reviewers a link to this document. So you can see I've selected 4 users here. You can set a custom approval threshold in Flosum, so I can say I only want 50% of the reviewers to approve the code, then I can deploy it. I can say 100%, I can say 2, so any combination of either percentages or numbers you can set to make that threshold. So once that's hit, it can be deployed. Now in this case, I have reviewed this and I found issues, so I rejected this code review because of the issues I found. All comments will be stored in a custom object and listed here. But as you'll see in a minute, we display them actually inline in the code, making it very easy for developers to see each other's comments, so they don't have to address the same issue 4 times if they don't want to. If they agree with my comments or somebody else's, they can just skip over that. So that saves a lot of time. But it also allows the developer to see all of the comments in one place inline in the code, so he knows exactly what needs to be addressed. So we click on our review. So you see in this case we have 15 components that are being deployed. We contrast them with what was last deployed so you can see what the status is. So this is something that has been changed since its last deployment. This is something new that hasn't been deployed yet, and we flag this red because it's identical and you do not need to deploy that. Deploying that would be a waste of time, API calls, etc. So you could remove this from your deployment and it wouldn't have any problems going forward. So when I want to review something, I click on the View Details button, and you can see it puts us into this powerful interface you'll see in many places throughout our solution. This allows us to review not only code but also declarative changes. So you can go in here, you can see apex changes, bundle changes, but also layout, field, things like that. All in this same interface that looks the same. We take the underlying code, we clean it up, do a semantic comparison, line it up object by object. We'll tell you how many changes you need to review. So in this case it's 11. You can navigate through them using these buttons. So if this is an extremely long document, it makes it easy to buzz through these changes. And then we highlight them with specific colors. So yellow is a conflicted line. So last time this was deployed, this behavior was required. Now we're pushing out as edit. Green is something new that's being deployed. So that's something we want to review and make sure it matches our requirements. And then something red is something that's in production that is not in our deployment. This may have been a hotfix that was deployed. This may have been done directly in production. So this is something that will be handled doing the conflict resolution a little bit later on. But when I want to comment on something now, I go in and click on the line number. So in this case, I see the conflict here. I can comment on that in here. When I click save, it'll be stored and displayed in line, and the review will know exactly what I'm talking about. In this case, with something that's in production that's not in the deployment, if I want to comment on that, I can click on that same line and make a comment here as well. So very easy commenting on everything. And then you will see not just mine, but all the developers, all the reviewers' comments will be in here for each other to see and the developer to see. Once I reviewed everything in here, based on what I found, I would either approve or reject this. I found issues. Rejecting it will send an email back to the developer with a link to all of my comments. If I approve it, once the approval threshold is met, then this code can be deployed. So now that we have our code approved, we have all the components in here we need, we're tied to our user stories, we now want to start preparing this to be deployed. So there are two ways you work with deployments. I will show you deployments in another video, but right now if you want to merge your changes together into another branch, so for example, let me show you a document that goes through the flow we have here. So I'm right here in feature A, and I want to deploy that feature branch forward. I have other developers working on different features that need to be released together. So I'm going to merge this branch into my feature branch. That way there I will have all the code that I've deployed, the changes the other two developers have done, and I'll be able to review any conflicts to make sure we're not overwriting or losing any changes. So I select Merge Branch. I want to go to an existing branch that I have. I have Sales Demo, many branches in here. As you can see, I've done a lot of work. I'm going to go to Sales Demo 3. So what this does is it allows me to cherry pick. So if for some reason the requirements have changed, I don't have to commit everything. I can select subsets of these to commit. But in this case, I want to commit everything, and I want to commit my destructive changes. So I now have them all selected. I go to merge to branch. Take a few minutes, and then these components will be added to my Sales Demo 3 release branch. So you can see this is now my Sales Demo 3 branch, and it has all the components that I just added in here. So that is what you can do within the branch document. Thank you.